All right. Hey, Hoff. Why don't you start the movie? I was waiting for him to make eye contact with me. He's like, don't look at me in the eyes.
Should I look at him?
I'm looking at him.
I'll look too.
Welcome to Obscure Chatter. I'm Terri Doty. If this is your first episode, welcome. I'm guessing if this is your first episode, you're here from my awesome guest, who I haven't seen in like 2 years. In person, at least. But welcome, Kristen McGuire.
Hi, that's me. I'm Kristen McGuire.
At least once I want to do the, like, and someone that needs no introduction, and they're just not introduced.
Oh, you should have told me that. We could have done that. I would have done it. And I'm like, anyway, here I am.
Anyways, if you don't know who I am,
well, I'm here. You're welcome.
I'm here, you're welcome. Yeah, I like that. Oh my gosh, yes. And it's the same thing that was happening with Tia. You are my second guest back since this lovely fun time.
Since the 2020.
Since the 2020.
Since the 2020.
You got a little Barbara Wald. Since the 2020.
Since the 2020.
But yeah, we are both vaccinated.
Yes, and I'm actually getting my third vaccine tomorrow.
Oh, so you do the... What was it? Like, there are all these different things. That's good. Let me know how that goes.
I will. I've heard it's gonna be bad, so it's like, well, good thing I'm doing it on a Sunday.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Like, I didn't have as strong as reaction as Stephen did, but then Lady Time happened, and that's when I started reading all these things. They're like, hey, so menstruating women typically don't take part in studies.
Oh.
Yeah. I read this whole thing about how, you know, a lot of women, don't want to risk, because of all the possible side effects, don't want to risk, you know, having kids later. And I totally understand that, but that really sucks that it's like, so menstruating women, let us know how this thing that is FDA approved goes. I'm like, cool. I'm having a lot of problems. I'm like, but you're alive, is what I'm hearing. I'm like, yeah.
Because I'm diabetic, I actually had some sort of weird diabetic side effects.
Really?
Yeah, like my blood sugar was like super low. Like I couldn't get it to stay up. And I actually called my endocrinologist and told him what was going on. And he was like, all right, we'll just keep an eye on it. He's like, also I'm making notes, you know, because I'm guessing that they report stuff like that too. So that was kind of like a weird side effect for me. And then I had all the other normal stuff, which is like chills and a fever and stuff like that. And I was like pretty miserable it was so weird. I was miserable for like 10 to 12 hours maybe, and then like magic I was like, and now I'm fixed. Like
that was not my Hoff and I like went to sleep, like, and the dog was like, can I go outside? I'm like, I guess you need to go out. But it was that
I shall allow it.
But then the Lady Time, I'm like, oh my god, like this is like when you're first, like as a kid, as like a preteen, teen, like starting and going, oh, so this sucks, and like, yeah, enjoy that for the next 40 years. Like that's yeah, I was reading all these studies just about like a lot of women are finding that, you know, it's heavier, it's more intense, a lot more clotting, and and it was to the point where I was getting my hair done, and my like I've been going to this woman for like 5-6 years. She's like, I'm sorry, I'm just feeling a little out of it. And I actually looked at her and I'm like, when did you get vaccinated? She's like, oh, last week. I'm like, are you about to start? She's like, girl? Yeah, why?
She's like, how do you know?
Like, and I'm like, you're going to die today. Like,
I foresaw it in my crystal ball.
Just start being like, by the way, your husband knows what you've been up to.
Just start throwing her off the trail.
Like, Terri, you're not going to dye your fucking hair green anymore if you're going to say cryptic shit.
You're like, I heard it from the 8 ball.
It said ask again later, and I did. So, oh my gosh, yes. You and I actually, I'd say I've been pretty good about keeping up with you via text, which I'm not the best friend with text.
I'm
often.
a terrible texter. I actually do everything. I always do everything voice to text, which is why I have so many typos. Yeah.
I use the iMessage thing on my laptop.
Oh, snap.
It's the best.
I'd be a much better texter if I could
like,
type on a
Terri,
keyboard.
like, with the fucking paragraphs in a minute. Like, yeah, 75 words a minute. Sorry. I don't even know if that's true. Probably not. But yes, we've been keeping up, and let's see, lots of life stuff for everybody. Like, I don't know anybody that's like, nothing's happened.
No, we did so much. We bought a house and we got married. We both quit like our full-time jobs, you know, so we're like
just
chasing
things.
that contract life, you know. Yeah, just little things, you know. I'm sure everybody's been doing that stuff in the past year and a half. Haven't you?
Yeah. Like, some major shit, obviously, like planning big life things. Like, we just started the adoption process, which has been interesting and very broken in I didn't even think that I was going to talk about it, but it's been kind of weird for people to be like, so your religion, like, oh, I'm agnostic. They're like, yeah, but like your religion, like,
do they not know what agnostic means?
I'm totally fine with pulling this up for you. So not Satan is what you're saying? I'm like, well, I mean, I can't believe I'm doing this, but like, what do you mean by Satan? Yeah, like
they're
that.
Like scribbling frantic notes.
Like, what do you mean by Satan? Quotes around that. Like the weirdest stuff that they ask you, where you're like, I thought I had my shit together, but damn.
I knew a woman when I used to work at the hospital scheduling colonoscopies. It was great. But all of our patients were full of crap.
It's a shitty job.
It is. And everybody's an asshole.
Everybody.
Those are all the colonoscopy jokes I have, everybody.
I know. I'm like, there's something with sphincter in there working around. Like, by the end of the episode, I'll be like,
But one of our drug reps adopted, and she was telling me about the process, and she's like, we have to have all these photo albums and like show them our house and things like that. And it was crazy how detailed it is.
They want photos of my dog. They want specific records of the breeding of my dog when she is adopted, but she's got Staffordshire Bull Terrier, so I'm like, oh my god.
You have to like 23andMe your dog.
Yeah, which I guess you can do. Or oh,
you're part European.
I'm like, oh, like, well, just I don't think on 23andMe it just says I'm European. Holy shit, it does. Actually, when I did mine, like, I'm like, see, I'm from everywhere. Fuck you guys who are all like, so I'm 97% just white guy.
I know mine's just going to be like, girl, you white. And I'm like, yeah.
You're the whitest of
I sure am.
There's a family friend, side note, obviously. There's a family friend. I went, dude, it turns out like on 23andMe, I am like 0.6% West African and like 0.3% this, da-da-da-da-da. And the family friend went, that's okay. I know it's okay.
That's okay.
What
a strange response to that.
I was using that as like isn't this interesting? And you like and you don't have to tell anybody. You don't have to.
I've never done 23andMe, but my mom had this like brief stint where she was like really into like our family line.
Yeah.
And she like researched everything, and she's like, Chrissy, guess what? We're distantly related to Robert the Bruce. And I was like, oh, so I'm like a princess? She's like, heavens, no.
No. But isn't that interesting?
That's okay.
And that's okay.
Yeah,
if you're like, I'm a direct descendant of this. And that's okay. Like I said Hitler instead of like Madame Curie or something. And that's okay.
That's okay. Yeah, so I'm always like, well, maybe one day I'll have like one of those movie things where someone will come for me and they'll be like, do you want to be a princess? I'll be like, ooh, no. No, thank you.
You're next in line. Genovia.
Everyone in the royal family has died except you. We've traced the roots back, and you are the only surviving relative.
And they're like, just do it.
I'm like, oh, I'd rather Rather not. Like, hard
You get
pass?
a castle, okay? Just do this for me.
It'll be like some like really small province that I've never heard of. You know?
I'm like, what? In Texas? It's in Texas? Are you serious? We were our own country for a whole year.
That's true.
And it worked. Everything worked out great. Obviously being a woman in Texas has been interesting, but we won't talk about that. No, we will not. Oh my gosh, it made me think of something else, but it's gone.
It's about castles.
Was it about castles? It might have been. Who knows? I don't know. I'm so excited to see you. And I'm like, and this too, because that's the whole thing that was happening. Like, you and I just kept talking.
This is like two girls at like a sleepover, and we're just like, oh my god, and then like this thing happened
on the first day of the sleepover. Like, remember in the summer we're like, yeah, let's do it again. And second night's fine. And then the third night you're like, we really should have just kept it.
We should have just, one of us should go home now.
Because it, like, the third night becomes, you want to know what your problem is, Jennifer? Like Jennifer's going to be like, yes, please tell me.
Oh, that's so interesting. Now I get to say my piece, Stephanie.
Well, when you're done talking, after your belly settled from the meal my mom made, as you sit in my den, yes, tell me what my problem is. Like,
the third night is also the night that, like, all the rules go back to normal, you know? Like, the first two nights, like, you guys could stay up late and have pizza and eat frosting for dessert. And then the third night, they're like, go to bed.
The third night is when the dad finally is like, all right, look. I really want to watch this World War II documentary, and you little bitches, I swear to God. Like, your dad was home this whole time? Yeah, he's just been hiding in
He's just been hiding.
the whole time.
For 2 days.
Yeah, oh my God. That's how we always say it. Like, whenever we're hanging out, if it's a long day, Steven's like, how long is this day with friends, though? Because there are some people that are 2-hour friends, and then there are all-night friends, and none of the people at this party are all-night friends.
I like that I've never thought about that, but there is a difference between 2-hour friends and all-night friends.
There is. Like, oh my God, yeah, I'm so glad we saw this movie together. Anyways, we're leaving in separate cars.
All right, well, bye. See you in 6 months.
Or like, we want to
see you at our mutual friends party. Okay, bye.
Bye. No, I don't want to go in a gift with you. No. Yeah, it is expensive. It's a kayak. It's expensive. But yeah, there was a double date we were on, and Steven and I were leaving dinner, and the couple that we were with, who are dear friends of ours, were like, hey, do you guys want to come back to our place and play video games? And Steven went, fuck no. Like, no.
I love the honesty. I like that it's like that, and now something like, we really should get back to our dog.
But it wasn't even that. Steven's like, this is when I remember, like, we were hanging out with a mid-20s couple, and we're in our late 30s and early 40s. So it's you guys, like, want to stay up. Like, what will happen is I will stay up, but I will be reading in bed.
That's what I like to do.
It's sexy. You've been reading a lot.
I have been reading a lot. I was reading last night, like, I looked at the clock. I was like, oh, what time is it? I was like, 12:30. It's like 2 hours past my bedtime.
Scandalo.
So I was like, I gotta go to sleep. But I was so afraid. I was so afraid of long-fingered ladies, Terri.
Or it's like salad fingers, which I've got to show you salad fingers. But yes, long-fingered ladies. I said fingered really weird just now. Like,
dear listeners, this is a ghost in the story I'm reading. I'm just making this up, okay? I'm not like weirdly afraid of women with long fingers. It's a ghost lady with long fingers.
Right, it's not like shitty arcade, like witch fingers or something.
No, not that you get for like 5 tickets.
Like, can you believe I got this for 5 tickets? Like, you spent 5 whole tickets on that?
You could have gotten a Smarties.
The fake nail polish is already gone.
I was gonna get a plastic slinky, but it was 20 tickets, and I didn't have enough.
I got an eraser that I ate.
I had a Clifford the Big Red Dog eraser that I got from like the Scholastics book fair when I was a kid. He sat on like your pencil, and he looked like he was sitting, and I was terrified to like use him. I was like, I will never use Clifford, and because I didn't want his like head to like.
Right, who wants a cool eraser that they're going to destroy?
Yeah, so
like
I like
stickers.
just kept him.
I'm not putting these stickers on anything. These stickers are just something I have now.
I would play with him on my desk. I'd be like, he's walking.
Aww. Total segue there, but like, what if that was now that your husband's name is Clifford, I'm like,
oh my gosh, you're right. What? I did love Clifford the Big Red Dog when I was a kid.
And Clifford the white guy is pretty great.
And I really like Clifford the normal human.
I almost called him like a homunculus or something.
Oh my gosh, I hope not. He should have told me that before we got married.
Like, wait, shit, marriage over, pulling it.
I'm like, why didn't you tell me that? That should have been in the vows.
See, it's so funny.
Are you a homunculus? Yes or no?
I knew both of you separately, but like, and I remember like, there were moments where, like, you guys were friends, but I don't remember when you guys started dating. So it was like, but when it was like do you know those two people are dating? I'm like, I feel like I should have known that sooner.
And we were friends for such a long time. Like, he was one of my best friends. Made me afraid to date him, actually. Because I was like, what if it doesn't work out and then I, like, lose one of my best friends? Like, I would be devastated.
That, I worked with a really weird guy in pro audio, and we became friends. And we also were counseling each other through really shitty dating decisions that each of us were making separately. And like, dude, I'm done. And he's like, I'm done. And then it's like, I think this is something. And I went, but do we risk the friendship? We fully like had a conversation at work in the acoustic room at Guitar Center because nobody was ever in there. And I'm like, so like I'm feeling things like, am I being at? He's like, oh yeah, no, totally, same. But I am concerned because what if it doesn't work out? I'm like, well, we are us, so that's a very real possibility. Mm-hmm. And he went, do you want to test the friendship? Like that, and that's like something he jokingly says now, like, you want to test a friendship? But it's terrifying because friends in a lot of ways carry a lot more weight, and so to risk it's just a really big leap of faith.
Yeah, and there was kind of like that sort of awkward shift of like, all right, well, now we're more than friends. Like, how do we be romantic with each other? And I don't know, that kind of works out because like a lot of our relationship is just making like really bad jokes at each other and being like, oh, well, kids, Cliff and I are getting divorced. I'm glad you're here to witness this. And they're always like, no! But yeah, so it's fun because we have like all these jokes from like our friendship and like callbacks and stuff like that. And it's worked out really great. And he is the first, I feel like, friend, like really good friend that I've dated. Like everyone else was a romantic interest to begin with, and I'm amazed at the difference between
were you a friend, or were you like a friend, like, or like were you waiting in the wings?
Yeah. Like, and I've never, my past two relationships before Cliff were like just people that were like, oh, I'm romantically interested in you. There was no friendship. Like, I got to know them as a romantic interest, and I've
seen it work, like where it's like romance from the get-go, but my God,
but there's so much trust built in already, like having, like dating Cliff, and because he had, he'd been there, like we were friends when I got divorced, and mm-hmm. we were both in different relationships, and then both of those relationships ended, and and it's like I'm sitting with him through his breakup, and he's mm-hmm. sitting with me through my breakup that were at like different times and stuff like that. So it's like we'd seen each other already in like really vulnerable moments and stuff like that, and like, I don't know, it's just that, like, having that trust there and everything has been, like, a really good foundation to build off of. And obviously, I like him enough to marry him.
There's paperwork.
But,
yeah, like, I'm really happy for you.
There's no getting out of it now.
And I guess I'm happy for Clifford, too. We text each other, but I'm like, I really text Kristen. Like, but no offense. So I was like, do, like, text you, and to, like, text the Clifford. I'm like, dude. And he's like, yeah.
He's like, so.
Right? That is so Terri, true. No, it's, and it never really goes away. Like, we were doing this stupid thing the other night, because I read in bed, and Stephen just sleeps while I read. Mm-hmm. You could. She's opening that damn.
No, I don't want them to know.
The Coke Zero.
They can't know how addicted I am to Coke Zero.
I've tried it. I don't get it. But
well, you're not diabetic.
This is very true. Yeah, like a friend of mine. She was obsessed with it, but her boyfriend, who was diabetic, like I was about to say diabetic at the time. while they were dating. He's like, I don't understand. Like, quit taking my sodas. And she's like, they're so good. He's like, they're really not, but it's the closest thing I'm gonna get. Stop stealing them.
I can't drink regular Coke now. Whenever there's someone at a restaurant, they like bring us the Cokes, and they're always like, oh, this one is the.
And then you go like, shit.
They go like, I think this was the diet, and I'm like, I need you to know, A, because like this is life or death.
Yeah.
Like, and B, like, now we have to like test it, and now we're afraid, so like I'll like take it. I'm like, oh god, it's like drinking straight sugar, and I'm like, because I haven't had it in so long.
Well, also, I mean, I've seen someone do like this Coca-Cola thing where they pour it into a toilet and it fully cleans a toilet. I'm like, I don't know if I want to drink that.
Oh well, but my insides must be very clean.
But the Zero didn't do it.
Oh,
so I'm like, what's in that? But I grew up with like a bunch of Mexican candy, Mexican sodas and stuff, and there's Mexican Coca-Cola, and it's, to me, my friends don't think it's different, but I've tasted difference, and it comes in a nice glass bottle.
I've had Mexican Coca-Cola when I was 13 in Mexico. Before I was ever diabetic, and I will never forget that Coca-La. Like, because we were like snorkeling, there was like salt water, so I'm like, my lips are so dry, and they were like, here, have a Coke, and it was like a Coke commercial. I was like, and I like,
you're like, does anyone else hear that music? Why am I drinking this in slow motion?
I like drank it. I was like, this is the best thing I've ever tasted in my life. Like,
see, so you get it. See, but that's me anytime I have it. Where I'm like, this is the best thing. Not really. I don't drink soda all that often, so it's like a treat when I do. But Topo Chico, it's well documented on the show. I'm obsessed with Topo Chico. Some listeners are like, I've never heard of this, and they'll get it. They're like, oh, or I don't get it. I still don't get it too.
I'm noting it for when Secret Santa comes around again.
And if you want to send some to me, I will give you the address. I'm like, this bitch's getting a lot of Topo Chico. But no, like talking about friends, and it's something that we still talk about, where like I'll be going to bed and like reading, and Stephen will snuggle up next to me, but he does this like stupid sound when he like scoots next to me, where he goes like
I love it.
And I did this like ha sound, and I'm like, oh my god, wouldn't that be like the most like annoying like hentai dub? and both together he was going like and I'm like ha, and I'm like, that's friendship. That's the dumbest shit possible.
We have so many stupid jokes that I feel like no one else will get. Like, we just recently discovered Key and Peele, and so like
Key and Peele is my life.
Like, I feel like we're so late to it. Like, we just discovered it, like, within the last, like, couple of months. And so we've been watching, like, all the skits and stuff. And we'll just, like, walk through the house and it'll be like, Megan! And I'm like, no!
I actually got cast doing a Megan impression. Leave me alone!
Leave me alone! No! I'm over it!
I'm obsessed. Or even doing a Sound Cadence Kageki shoujo. There was a point where, like, Damon was directing me, and he did like this pirate voice, and and so I started doing the pirate chanting.
the
Say yo ho, but we don't mean ho. This ho is disrespectful. Yo.
Yeah.
I love it. It's just so funny to watch it now and be like, that's a dude that's directing some of my favorite fucking films that have come out.
He's a genius. He's so, and like, when he's in those skits and stuff, he just like so completely embodies the character that at no time I'm like, oh well, that's a man dressed as a woman. Like, you know, like I don't think that I'm like, oh my god, Megan.
Like, who's one of your favorite actresses? I'm like, who plays Megan? Like, Jordan Peele.
Jordan Peele. So funny. So we have like a lot of things like that, or Cliff does this like really, when he tells like a dad joke, a particularly bad dad joke, which he's really trying to make up for lost time on. He'll, if nobody laughs, he'll go like, like, and every time it makes me laugh, and it makes me so mad because I'm like, no, I didn't want to laugh at your joke, and he's like,
I win. It wasn't funny. I will not.
It's, yeah, so it's good. Like, it's good for that. So was Hoff the guy at the Acoustic Guitar Center?
Yeah.
Oh my god! Yeah. Okay, I wanted to ask. I was like, what if it's not? And then I have to have like really awkward.
I'm like, anyway, oh no, we're still dating, but Stephen and I are doing well too.
I mean, no judgment.
Yeah, no, like my first day at Guitar Center, I was a door girl. Although they're like, it's a door person. I'm like, everybody's calling me a fucking door girl, which is someone that comes in and they count the people that have come in for the day. And like, can I write down the serial number on the guitar you're bringing in just so you don't steal it? I'm like, I make $6.50 an hour. I really did not care. Someone walked out with an iPad, and I'm pretty sure that I should have caught it. And they're like, you didn't see that? I'm like, no.
See, I worked for Michael's making a whopping $6 an hour. And they were like, if someone walks out with merch, don't stop them.
Oh, yeah, no, they're like, don't stop, because one door person once ran out, like, after someone, like, stole a Les Paul, and the person just swung the Les Paul and knocked the door person.
Oh, my gosh, yeah. They're
yeah.
we don't want you to risk your life for it. We don't care if somebody steals a die-cut machine.
Yeah, oh my God, like, you'd be impressed by that, really. But yeah, like, my first day, I started early in the day, and they're like, all right, so 2 o'clock's about to happen, and that's when there's going to be a shift change. Like, the morning guys are going to leave at 5, but, like, there is a middle time where everybody's here, morning shift and night shift. So at 2, the pro audio manager is going to be here. Do not be deterred by him. He's an asshole, in my opinion, and da-da-da-da-da. I was in the lunchroom that was painted like a Van Halen album, so it was a lot for the eyes.
I can't relax in here. Why do they call it a break room?
It's red. It's all red with just little stupid strips of black and white. I get it. We're Guitar Center. But yeah, like there's just this dude that came in and it's like, hi, how are you? Oh, you must be new. Like, da-da-da. I'm like, what an asshole. And that ended up being Stephen.
Aw, yeah. That was your first thought about your future husband.
He's nice.
How romantic.
He's nice for, and I like him, and he's cute for a white guy with dreads. I'm like,
I have learned so much this episode of Obscure Chatter.
It's quite obscure. But yeah,
and very chattery.
Well, see, but we were talking about this is like, Clifford's actually used Stephen. He's like, this guy looks exactly like you. Can you please come
He's told me about that.
And Stephen's like, I'm not an actor. And Clifford's like, I don't care.
He told me about it. I think it was in Genocidal Oregon.
Yes.
Yeah.
And we've, like, I've had Stephen do, like, bits. And when he was in my audiobook, Stephen's like, I don't have anything to hide behind in an audiobook. Can you please recast me in this? And I guess Damon. And Damon's like, the only way I'm doing this is if I can hear what Stephen did. and he's like, he did fine. Like, he doesn't want it. And Damon's like, I mean, I'm here. You're paying me. I don't care. But the closest I've come with my mate is I've been in both Train to Busan live action dubs, and in the second one I played a totally different character, but she has a backstory with her husband, and Stephen played my husband.
That's cute.
Who I'm pretty sure super died.
I love it when, well, I don't like the super dead part. That
I love
sucks.
super dead.
That's my favorite part. No, I like it when like couples like play, against each other. We just got announced yesterday for Duke of Death and his Maid. And I am a sucker for fairy tales, and I was like, this is like Rogue from X-Men, but if it was like a young man in a top hat.
And like it's the two of you playing opposite each other.
Yeah, and we did auditions, and so I read for Alice.
I got those auditions. I remember that. So it's not like this will be a funny little like promo thing or something.
Yeah,
it just worked out that way. It seems.
I guess it just I read my audition and I was like, oh, she's just like hopelessly in love with this guy. I'm like, here I am, like having just gotten married. I'm like, I'm hopelessly in love with a guy too. So
what are the chances?
What are the odds? So I just read the whole audition as if I were talking to Cliff, and the director Natalie Hoover was like, your audition was so good. Aww. And I was like, thanks. And so I get scheduled for it, and I was like, Natalie, am I Alice? And she's like, tee hee hee. And I was like, oh my God, I'm so excited. I was like, but who's my Duke? And she was like, do you really want to know? And I was like, yes, I do. And she's like, it's Clifford. And I was like, ah. And she's like, don't tell him. I'm like, no,
don't
what?
Tell him.
She's like, I haven't had a chance to tell him. I'm like, Natalie, you can't. I was like, I will never, ever be able to keep this secret. If you want to be the one to tell him, you have to tell him right now.
Start a new text right
I was like,
fucking
do
now.
it right now. I was like, you cannot trust me with this vital information. I was like, because I'm going to walk downstairs and I'm going to have a big stupid smile on my face. He's going to be like, what's up with you? And I'm like, "Meh." I'm like, you gotta do it. If you want this moment, you do it, because I cannot be trusted right now. And she's like, okay.
I love it. Natalie's done Obscure Chatter, and she's a goof. We send each other a lot of Keanu Reeves related stuff. Like when it was his birthday last week, all she sent me was, "It is his birthday." And I knew exactly what she was talking about.
Working for Natalie a lot.
The last time,
It was Bo Fury, right?
Yes, where I was actually recording something else, and she went, I'm not holding auditions for this, but do you have like any demos or anything? I'm like, well, yeah, I'm someone that's been working in the industry for over a decade, bitch. Yeah.
Yes, I have a demo.
And she went, okay, can you send me that? And I sent it to her, and she went, all right, so here's a photo. I think one of the characters was your character. It's like, what would she sound like? And I sent her a voice memo.
Mm-hmm.
And she's like, what would this person sound like? She kept sending me photos, and I sent her voice demos. And then
So you did audition.
I did audition. I'm like, this seems a lot like an audition that, like, is super chill. Like, I'm like, if somebody just wants to text me, like, hey, really quick, voice memo. And I was, like, actually in my booth, like, between takes, like, yeah, just going to mute the mic really quick. This is this. Done. And none of those were me, which is the character I play in that show. And I'm like, and it's just me, like, my voice. But she's like, it's not, but...
I love me so much. I love her, like, tough
you
girl.
were texting me a lot of
I
it.
was like, me is so funny.
Like, you get to do this. I'm like, shut up. Don't,
Stop ruining it for me. I can't help it. Because, like, especially when I'm, like, adapting the script for something like I did for Bo Fury. Bo Fury was a show that, like, when I watched the PV for it, because they used to send us these lists. They're like, here's the list of shows we're getting, like, you know, pick which ones you want to write. And I'm always like, you want me to pick the next 3 months of my life based off a 2-minute promo? Like,
right.
And so it was always one of those things. I'm like, maybe this one, maybe I like the show. And then, like, halfway into it, I'm like, nope, I hate this.
Like, old school, they would give us nothing, and like, fuck. On one of them, he's like, I don't know, I was having really good luck just picking stuff off of, like, the word being in it. It didn't work out with this one. And I'm like, what is it? He's like, I don't want to talk about it.
Before I was in house, when we were all contract, like, I would just get assigned stuff.
Yeah.
The head writer would just be like, I think this is a Kristen show, and, like, most of the time I end up liking it. But
yeah, I think the first thing that I knew that where you were the writer was Interviews with Monster Girls.
yeah, and that was one that was just, like, sort of assigned to me.
That's lucky.
Yeah, it worked
really,
out.
really
I really liked that show.
Hope we do
But
season 2.
Bo Fury was a show that I looked at the PV and I was like, oh, because as most anime fans know, we're in the isekai genre forever, apparently. And I have written so many isekais, so it's to the point now to where, like, when they started the list, and it's like, this is an isekai, all the writers are like, not it, nose game. Like, because they're like, we don't want to write more isekai, and I'm gonna be writing That Time I Got Reincarnated as a Slime until I die, because it's just going to keep going forever. So I saw Bo Fury and I was like, is this another isekai? But I was like, no, wait, this is like a girl that just plays a game, and it's just like really super cute, like cute girls doing cute things, which is like my jam. And so I was like,
it's very intentionally like offhand humor.
Yeah, like it's very cute and just like friends, and like, you know, it's just about people like playing a game and like having fun in like unique ways you never thought of, and I love that. And I end up loving Bo Fury, and it was so easy to write too, like, because there'd just be like these minute-long montages in the middle of it. I'm like, yes, yet another montage of them playing a game. It's a writer's dream.
Well, a lot of shows like that, I actually think when I saw a trailer for it, I'm like, I don't know about that, because sometimes you can kind of guess, like, okay, if so-and-so's directing this, I might think about, like, you know, if I got sides, like, you know, like how they would do this, blah, 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 blah.
Mm-hmm.
But, like, there are certain shows where you're like, I tend not to get cast in this genre very often by this person, so I won't think about that. But I saw a trailer for, like, MMO Junkie, which is where Clifford and I, we'd known each other already, but we really became friends during that show. Like, we talked a lot about relationships, more than we recorded, I'd say. Like, there was a point where I said something casual, and he was like, "Oh, Terri, you don't know my life." And then 45 minutes later, like, "So should we come in for this, like, reaction? This off reaction?"
That was definitely before we were dating.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. But,
otherwise, he would have been like, "Everything's perfect."
But, no, there was, I remember seeing a trailer for it, and it looked like just, like, pure fantasy, and I actually didn't finish the trailer, which is, like, maybe 5 seconds afterward when Clifford went, "Hey, I had messaged him because in My Hero, I tend to get mistaken to be the voice of Bakugo's mom. And I am not Bakugo's mom. I've never been... I think maybe like, I don't remember this, but if I were, I got recast, which happens all the time. But I actually text Clifford. I'm like, "Am I your mom? I feel really shitty, but someone keeps tagging me as your mom." And he went, "I can't tell you. I don't know." And then an hour later, he's like, "You're not. Also, you're the lead in my show. I just thought I'd let you know. I hope that's cool." And so I watched the trailer again. I'm like, if I had waited 5 more seconds, it's like, "Oh, by the way, I'm a really big introverted 30-year-old that just wants to play video games and be left the hell alone." I'm like, "And you thought me?" He's like, "Don't act like you don't know what this is."
I like that show because it's about adults. Like, I love anime shows that are also, like, about adults. Like, but it's not like adults, like, and now there's some sort of supernatural thing killing everyone. It's just like, this is just adults with adult problems.
Real, what was it? There's a show that Chris George is doing that's like that, where, like, the dude's just very, like, he works at, like, a kid show or something.
I cannot tell you the name of it to save my life.
I'm like, yes, I want more of these.
Yeah, and New Game was like that. New Game was just about, like, a bunch of girls, like, making video games and, like, the stress that comes from, like, having a job and, like, you know, having days off or, like, having to work overtime and stuff like that.
Well, and it's fun to... Sorry, I'm getting a note from Stephen. Can Terri scoot a hair closer to her left? Like this? You want me right here like this? Is this what you want, Hoff? Okay, is that good? All right, sorry. Technical difficulties. Thank you. Like, see, what's so funny, though, I'm like, oh, what's wrong with the movie that I haven't mentioned, but Hoff has to beep at least one thing. We're watching...
There he is. My crush from when I was young.
I'm like,
and probably still now.
I know, like, there are certain... So Hoff and I are very honest. He's not a jealous person. I'm not a jealous person.
Do you guys have a list? Like an okay list?
No, like, it's like there would just have to be a very amazing circumstance that would happen. But, like, sometimes I'll see people, I'm like, oh my God, look at this dude. Steven, and we always do this. Like, if we make fun of someone, Steven's like, in this scenario, you're single, you're at a bar, this dude's like, hey, I want to buy you a drink. You're not going home with him. And I'm like, probably am. I'm not gonna lie. Or like, I was watching that reality makeup show, Face Off, and I'm like, oh my God, this dude, he is like so, like a customer at Guitar Center, blah, blah, blah. Like, he is just too much. The guy liner, everything, blah, blah, blah. Steven's like, you're alone at a bar. I'm like, oh yeah, no, it's not like, oh my God, look at this guy. Shit, he can get it. Fuck. Where you see, like, actors that you fell in love with as a kid, and then you see them again, you're like, oh, this is explaining a lot about me. A lot about me now. Or women, too, like, really, like, learning about that. I'm like, oh, I used to think she was so beautiful, and it was not because I wanted to be her. I wanted to be her friend. Badly.
I like how little makeup she's wearing in this movie. Like,
it's subtle.
It's very subtle. So,
but yes, and it's get you all curious. It's based off of a book. But yeah, let's see what's. I have no. Oh, you know what? Actually, I was thinking of because, you know, with everybody, I do like to interview people that I don't know very well sometimes, but sometimes it's just like a, hey, do you want to do like the thing that we do like all the time in front of a mic?
Like a Q&A?
Would you like this? But there are moments where like I've had like a lot of other local cool people like, you should have them on the show. I'm like, I don't know if I'm that good of an interviewer to fully like just be like, I don't know you at all. Hello. But just thinking back on it, I don't recall when we actually started like talking like friends. But I remember it was because I remember we talked period because of Assassination Classroom.
Yeah, I guess that would have to be when it was.
So early 2015.
Yeah, that was my first named role.
Ooh.
Yeah.
It's a big deal. Sometimes I feel like I'm a little jaded sometimes where it's like, oh, cool. Like, oh, this character. I think it's just being in a bad mood sometimes with this past year or so where I'm like, okay, so she's not like a really big deal. And I'm like, I'm getting paid to play. Like, this is fun. But sometimes you can just be like, oh, okay. So it's just Bits and Walla. And I still love Bits and Walla because they pay the same.
Right.
But I remember like starting out and just being like, hey, I'm getting called in for Walla all the time. That's pretty fucking cool.
Yeah.
Like, I love like oh, hey, and I keep getting called in with like 3 or 4 of the same people each time. So like we all like start doing stupid shit together. But that first relevant named character,
I wish you could bottle that feeling. Like, you
Yeah.
like save it for like a bad day where you're like, I'm absolute trash and I'll never act again. You know, and you're just like, hold on, let me get my memory bottle and just like unscrew the cap. And you're like,
remember what that felt like?
ah, yes, now I recall. And
Yeah, like just like, and the person could be in one scene, but it's like, I don't know, like there's something about it. It's a magic thing.
I feel really fortunate that Assassination Classroom was like my first named role. I had been doing Walla for about a year and a half. I got into voice acting with like no previous voice acting experience.
Really?
Yeah, I had done like theater in like middle school and high school. I was, not to brag, but I was Toto in The Wizard of Oz.
Oh shit.
Oh yes.
I had no idea.
And so I was selling my books in like Artist Alley, and I was talking to someone who did like some Walla, and of course like everybody asks this, right? You're like, how did you get into voice acting? That's so cool. Like never knowing that was one day going to be my life.
Right.
So I asked him, and he was like, oh, I just blah blah blah. Like I knew somebody, and I was like, oh, I used to like act in theater. I really liked it, but I was like, I've never thought about like trying to do it for like money. And he's like, well, you should just try out. And I was like, maybe I will. And so I like Googled it. I was like, how to be a voice actor for Funimation, which I always tell people, I'm like, you too can Google it. If you really want to, the answers are out there.
They're all out there.
All
Too much.
on the Google. And so I Googled it, and at the time, Funimation had that thing on their page that were like, if you want to be an actor and get on our list, just fill out
Right.
send us an email with this info. So I was like, Dear Funimation, I did theater, and I can bark like a dog. And I like didn't even have a demo, you know, and I was like, and I would like to be, I would like to be considered.
They didn't even have like an upload option for a demo.
Yeah, I think you could like attach it to the email.
Okay.
But like that doesn't exist anymore. And so like I sent it, and I didn't hear anything for 5 months. I'm like, yeah, I wouldn't call me either. You know, I was like, God, I don't know anything. Like, who am I? And then like 5 months later, out of the blue, they're like, do you still want to do open auditions? And I was like, yes, I do. And I was like, dear Google, how be voice actor? And
I fail upwards. That's what it is. In my experience, like I got called in on a whim because of a friend of a friend of a friend from Joel, and Joel actually gave me my first lead. Yeah, but there were times where like he would like get me out of the Walla thing and like be like, I'm gonna be real, you're not ready yet. I'm like, I didn't feel good about that either. He's like, so I'm gonna recast you. I'm like, that's fine.
I've always appreciated Joel's honesty.
You need that. Like, it benefits nobody to be like, no, that was good.
Yeah.
Like, well, and as a director, there was a point where an actress, on when I took over, she was having a little bit of difficulty with a name.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, okay, so we're stressing it just a little bit, and I do need you to tap that R. and it was about 7 or 8 takes. And unfortunately, it was a name within like a full line.
Oh, yeah.
So you had to get the full line every time, which sucks because you do get in your head. I've done it as an actor.
I do feel like names in the middle of sentences, too, are much tougher than if you have to start or end with it.
That's exactly what it was. And I'm like, fuck, I feel really bad. But as I'm like, okay, how can I give this to her? I'm going to have to give her a read. And as I was like talking to my engineer, she leaned into the mic. She went, this is kind of messed up. And I kind of looked at what? My engineer. She went, well, it's just like I have never had to do this many takes with other directors here.
Oh.
And that's when I kind of did the like, well, the thing is, da-da-da-da-da. She's like, yeah, that's what you're saying. That's what you've been saying. So, like, what do I need to do to give you what you supposedly need? Kind of thing. And I'm like,
oh my gosh.
And I heard do the, like, we'd gotten to know each other pretty well. He went, oh, shit. And I'm like, I'm usually pretty nice, but I'm like, if we're going to do the, like, thing. So, yeah, I literally took off my glasses, folded the temples, and I'm like, so here's what's going to happen. I'm going to go ahead and give you just a repeat. I'm going to tell you with the mic on exactly how you can say it. We're going to do it maybe one more time after this, and then we are literally out of time. And I'm going to tell you, even if you didn't do it right, that you did great. And the second you leave, I am hopping in there and replacing you. So what do you want to do? I have never done that before in my life, and I've never done that since. But it was this like, look, this isn't my problem. This is your problem.
Oh my gosh.
And it was just like I remember being this, like, on the other side of this and being so nervous and shaking. And sometimes, especially whenever you're trying new stuff, like doing video games with new companies or just trying a new studio or with remote sessions, it is terrifying to be like, I hope today doesn't die.
Yeah.
Like, you know, like, I hope my studio just doesn't shit on itself today. All of these things I understand. But you gotta come at it with zero ego. And I think ego is healthy. But the second, like, you are, like, in the actor role, that ego's gotta go.
And there's nothing wrong with, like, being honest. I have told many different directors on, like, several occasions that I can think of where I was just like, I'm sorry, I don't know what you want.
Right.
You know, can you explain it differently? I'm just having a really hard time understanding what you want.
Right.
You know, like, it's one of those things I'm like, I don't mind doing, I'll do it as many times as you want me to, but I obviously don't understand what you want, and that's why I'm struggling right now. So can you explain it differently?
Yeah.
You know?
And there are some directors that are not, like, there was times with Bevins, and he used to be my producer when I was director, and there would be times that I'm like, you made me cry. And he's like, yeah, I went a little too far. I could have said it this way. And I'm like, why didn't you say it that way? He's like, because I'm a dick.
I think I've even told people, I'm like, you could just give me a line read if you want. It won't hurt my feelings.
Are fine. Like, as long as it doesn't start that way, like, this is exactly how you're going to say it. I'm like, can I do one take? One, like, maybe give you, like, one, like, option. No, like, okay. And that's all it is.
As a director, I've definitely told people, I'm like, I'm going to give you a line read. I was like, and it's not you, it's me. I don't know how to explain to you what I want, so I'm just going to tell you it.
Or, like, I will give you the backstory, but it's so convoluted, and your character does not know that why they're stressing it this way, so it's really hard for me to tell you this.
Yeah.
But... So. Yeah. So, but you have to come at it with ego. Or there was you know, like being sleep deprived, or sometimes you're going through something.
Yeah. Like right after my divorce, it was like, all right, well, I guess I'll go be a happy 14-year-old anime girl today.
Or there was I was actually thinking about this. It was my friend. She's an actress we both know, but I won't say her name. She's like, I had to do a video commentary, like, reaction thing to this show, and it's a beautiful show, and I'm glad it was beautiful. And the episode that I did for the commentary was sad because my boyfriend broke up with me that morning.
Oh,
She's like, so I covered crying by making it look like the episode was affecting me. And I'm like, how did it look? She's like, oh, nobody knows. It's a fucking day.
Oh.
And I'm like, girl, why didn't you reschedule? She's like, because I'm a fucking actor. I'm like,
Yeah, because that's it. It doesn't matter if you feel sad that day. You have to like go in and be like, all right, well, time to put all that aside and be an actor today.
Right. I mean, there was a point in what show, I forget what show I was directing, where it's like, so I had to put my dog down. I'm like, girl, why are you here? And they're like, well, no, like da-da-da. I'm like, no, I'm canceling today. Like da-da-da. Like, thank you. Like,
oh my gosh.
I'm like, I know that it's like, no, the work is the work. Or the last 2 episodes of Wave Listen to Me, I did the day after and the day after that of my mother-in-law dying.
Oh, gosh.
And that was also my husband, whose mother that was, directing me. And, like, to the point where, like, he came in, we're at Okratron Studios. Whenever we have a guest, we're always at Okratron Studios.
It's beautiful here.
Thank you, Okratron 5000. But, like,
this episode is sponsored by...
not at all. Not at all.
No.
That was the one that I pulled from the ether because I went TV shopping yesterday. But Raleigh Pickens, who's a great director, mix engineer here, like he saw us walk in. He's like, "What the fuck are you guys doing here?" Like, we want to stay busy, and he's like, "Right on." But you could also just go and just be like, no, the work, the work.
I feel like I should follow up the story of like how I got into Funimation, because I feel like when I only tell that part, people are like, "Oh, you didn't even try," and I'm like, "Okay,
girl, how much work have you done since then, though?"
That's the part I have to tell, and so for a year after I got in, like it felt really easy to get in. Yeah. I felt like I immediately got in. Joel McDonald was my hiring director. He was the person who did my open audition. But I was not booking like from auditions, and
neither was I.
I finally was like,
at first,
well, if I'm not booking auditions, and like everyone else was like, oh yeah, I just did this commercial thing and blah blah blah. I'm like, everyone else is actors, and I'm just some schmo that was like, it'd be fun to be an actor.
Getting in is one thing. Staying is another.
Right. Yeah. And I finally had this conversation with myself one day that I was like, I'm never going to be a professional in this industry unless I start treating this like a career and less like a hobby. And so I asked Joel one day, I was like, Joel, what can I do to be a better actor? And he was like, you really want to know? And I was like, yes. And he was like, take classes. He's like, do improv, do anything. And I was like,
anything.
I was like, okay. And so I did it. Like I started doing improv. I hired a private coach at the time and I worked with them weekly. I took workshops. I've taken so many workshops. I have more workshops this year. And I've done that for the past, 7 years.
Just don't stop. Oh, I'm glad I learned everything.
Now there's nothing more I can learn ever. Sorry.
We got another Stephen note.
I was too close.
Did we overcorrect?
I couldn't help it. I feel so drawn to Terri. But yeah, so I always feel like I have to tell people that because I'm like, listen, it sounds easy to get in, but to stay in and to keep booking, I had to do a lot of work. But within 6 months of really seriously pursuing it and putting in the work and the effort, I booked Assassination Classroom.
Yeah.
And I think Joel even told somebody, I can't remember now who I heard it from. It might have been Cliff, that he was like, Kristen is one of the hardest working people I know. And it's probably just because I actually listened to him. But
well, I'm thinking of me on that. I'm like, there was a moment actually during that where he snapped at me because one of the other actors, it was a bunch of us just only had one line for that episode or those couple of episodes. So he called us all in for a walla, and one person kept just fucking around. And at one point Joel went, Jesus Christ, what is going on? And I'm like, I've never had someone who is actually a friend yell at me like this before. And me and the other actor that wasn't the fuck up looked at him and it's like, what? You got Joel to yell.
Joel's so patient.
Joel's the chillest guy in the entire fucking world. But yes, he takes chances. But also, like, for me, I think I really came into my own as an actor afterward because I interned at Funny, finished out my associates there, and then was offered directing work and writing work. And that's what made me more confident as an actor. And then I started taking workshops. But it was so contradictory because, like, I would be in a workshop and, like, well, you know, I'm doing this. And then people like, oh, my God, how do you get into that? I'm like, I'm here with you as a fucking, like, actor. And to the point where the director's like, stop asking Terri about Funimation. Stop it. I'm like, I want to do commercial stuff. And then I started doing, which I still do, under different names, for sexy reasons. No one's ever successfully picked out any of the saucier ones because the names are just ridiculous. Although Joel always asks, he's like, are you still doing them? I'm like, I think you're actively looking. If you just want me to leave you a sexy voicemail, let me know. But yeah, I forget what it was. I think it was like a fan art of your character and mine or something.
Maybe. That seems familiar. That's ringing a bell in the old brain.
Like, I don't even know if we were following each other or something, but I remember just like tagging you in it and just being like, oh, and...
Yeah, I feel like I made a lot of friendships on that show. Because we would all, like, we would show up in a lot of the same Walla and stuff like that. Because it's, like, the Walla is the class. And so it's like, you know, if you only had a couple of lines and it was easier to just come in and do Walla with everybody.
Knowing what we know now, like, because it was only the season previously that we started doing, at the time it was called Broadcast Dubs.
Right.
And it was only 2 shows. It was Laughing Under the Clouds, and then a week later, the premiere of the 2nd season of Psycho-Pass.
Right.
And then the next one was like, okay, now we're going to do 5 shows. And like, okay, your 2nd season in, they're like, we're going to have 22 main characters that are just the students. That's not even the main guy that we're going to say is an alien, but he's not. And like the teachers and blah, blah, blah. Like, and they're going to be in every week. What?
I remember feeling, like, really excited, though, because, like, up until that point, I had only done Walla in bits, and so it was, like, I was lucky if I was being called in, like, once every couple of months, you know? So, like, to go in there and, like, one, Joel did the thing that Joel does, where he's like, I'm in the lobby, and he's like, oh, good, you're here early. I want to talk to you about the show. And I was like, all right. And so he's, like, doing his thing where he's, like, telling you the backstory, which anyone that's worked with Joel knows that's just Joel. Like, he'll do that. You could have one line as, like, a bit part, and he'll be like, here's your whole character's backstory and motivation. And he'll talk for, like, 10 minutes. He's like, are you ready to do the line? You're like, yes. And it's like, beep, beep, beep. And you're like, yeah. See, all right, I'm done.
Like, actually, like, what you're saying is blowing my mind, because with Joel, it's like, all right, let's do this.
I guess I don't think I knew him as well as you did.
But yeah, like I knew him, like, and him and my husband are, like, very close friends. I'd say, like, it's a romance, like, to the point where they were work husbands.
Aww,
and occasionally he'd be like, Steven's so great. I'm like, stay the fuck away from my husband.
Back off.
Back off. Or I'm telling Marie, he's like, she already knows. You don't scare me. But there was one time, and I can tell this story because he doesn't work at Funny anymore. But there was one time after lunch, he came in a bit sauced up.
No.
And he's like, I'm going to be real. Looked at the engineer and then looked at me and he went, you guys both know what you're doing. Terri, this is like female, like 57A. Like, do I need to do anything? And I'm like, no. He's like, I'm really sorry. I'm really sorry. I overdid it. But I have a lot of faith in both of you. And then he just kind of sat back at me and, like, I think it was Kyle Phillips were like, okay, here we go.
Which is funny now because, like, I look back on that story and I'm like, all right, well, now, you know, Kyle's the director and you've directed. So, like, hearing that story now, I'm like, well, yeah, I don't see why that wouldn't have worked out. Like, you know, it's so weird. When I think back to Assassination Classroom, I think of, like, oh, man, Joel really took a lot of risks back then with a lot of the cast, you know. But I feel like Cliff and I talk about this a lot, which is, like, you'll do something. Like, I directed Gamers, and I was like, I'm going to cast Brandon McInnes as my lead. He'd never played a lead before. He'd only played, like, a few small supporting roles. I was like, look at me, taking this huge risk. I say with air quotations because Brandon McInnes is insanely talented.
Right.
Like, I knew it wasn't a risk, but it hadn't been done, you know?
Well, I knew him before he was a voice actor.
Yeah I think I did, too. But now, like, Brain just did so much work that I'm sure, like, if someone new discovers Gamers Today, they'd be like, oh, Brandon McInnes as the lead, and Brittany Karbowski, and, it's like, to them, like, that's not a risk. It's like, oh, those are just good actors doing good work. And I'm like...
That's why time is a funny thing.
Time is a funny thing.
Rewatching, like, one of the first shows that I really fell in love with, I'm like, oh my god. And sometimes I'll share clips. But there was one I'm like, I remember like people came in, they're like, hey, Tatum was telling us about the scene, can we see it? And we're like, we're working like, now. They're like, oh well, it's just like I'm about to leave. I'm like, hey, 1 second, actor that is here to get paid. Someone wants to see how brilliant of a voice director I am. Here's Lucy Christian and J. Michael Tatum, just doing what they do. I just gave them a couple little things, but I just tried not to get in their way, and that, like, even then it's like, well, yeah, it's Lucy Christian and J. Michael Tatum, but I knew them as like my friends Lucy and Michael. I've never called him Michael in my life, it's Tatum, but yeah, like, you just don't know.
Yeah, I remember talking to Joel about it, and he was like, how's your first show going? I'm like, I don't know, I feel like I kind of cheated my way into it. I was
that's the thing.
I was like,
just good people.
I was like, it's so easy. I was like, I don't feel like I'm working at all. And he was like, then you did your job.
When did you start writing?
Writing I started in, I think it was 2015.
Also.
My first show was Dance with Devils.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I'm like, don't lie to me.
I swear, I'm telling you everything I know.
Or I remember, like, the big thing is that I remember, because I had worked, I think, a little bit with your scripts, just seeing your name in a script, but it wasn't until Interviews with Monster Girls, which, that was a big thing, like, someone was like, what was it like? What was that audition like? I'm like, I didn't audition.
Yeah.
Like, with broadcast... I think broadcast dubs make a little more sense than simulcast because it's not premiering simultaneously with the Japanese, or simuldubs. But like for that one, no, I was the first person to come in, and it was something I never really got to play the cinnamon roll.
Machi is still one of my all-time favorite characters.
She's my favorite. I keep up with the manga, which I'm like, they finally explained when she became a doula hand. It was not in utero.
Oh.
It was when she was 4. She was just playing with her dad, and at one point her head just fell, and her dad was like, oh my god!
Oh my god, that would be terrifying.
And I'm like, well, that makes more sense than like so this woman's giving birth, and
they're like,
see a head.
They're like, here's the head. All right, now let's do the body.
Like, is she crowning? Like, she's crowning and
and there's a fire in here. What's going on?
But no, like, I love that show, but one of my favorite moments, Jade and I have talked about it on panels together, is the thing that happened naturally in the booth about something that had absolutely nothing to do with my character, which is Hikari's little, like, got a boot, Malamute, or like,
oh yeah, take care, polar bear.
And then
like,
it just became a thing.
It became a thing really unintentionally.
Mm-hmm.
It happened when she was waving goodbye to Yuki, who was the snow woman, and of course it was something like, matane or ja matane, and like, of course there were more flaps, and there was a big old open flap at the end that I have to leave it open, and I was like, well, she's a snow woman. I was like, so I'll just have her be like, take care, polar bear. And Jade loved it so much that I just started, I was like, that's kind of like Hikari's thing, It's like, I could see her just...
I mentioned it too, like something, and then we just started like thinking of other ways to say goodbye and matching it to animals.
I remember that we were DMing over Facebook on it.
Yes, when I was on Facebook, or like I'm out river trout.
Yes.
Or oh my god, got a boot, Malamute.
There were a lot. There was a point in one of the episodes where like he goes to meet their Hikari's family, and the mom and Hikari go to buy ice cream, and as they're leaving, in the background the mom is just going like, let's go, like in English. She's like, let's go, haha, and Hikari mimics it back to her, and I was like, oh my gosh, what if this is where she learned it? And so I just had him being like, let's do the thing, like rhymey thing, and then like Hikari like rhyming to her.
Aww.
And I was like, oh, it's like she totally got it from her mom, which does not exist in the J, but it's there in the English.
We'll see, but that's a big thing that like on the interviews with Monster Girls panel that where Jade and I were there, and I love to mention Jade was late because she got the time wrong. So she like came in all like, I'm here. I thought it was that one. Me and Bryn are just like, are you okay? And Austin was on the panel, but we had to tell him who he played.
That's not surprising to me.
And, like, he was like really pervy. He's like, you are not helping me at all.
Interviews with Monster Girls is also where my surfing cat joke first started. Anytime there is a line that doesn't have a translation, if it's in the modern day world, I write this joke about a surfing cat that says Meowabunga. And I've written it into, I think, 4 or 5 shows now. Like, to the point to where, like...
interviews is my favorite.
It was the most, like, in your face. Because a lot of them are just, like, in the background where you can't hear them. Like, if you watch Dinosaur, and there's a point where, like, the guy on TV is like, today on our other side of the news, on the lighter side, someone has captured footage of a surfing cat. Meowabunga, am I right? And so it's just like on the TV playing in the background. And then in Magical Girl Raising Project, there's these 2 girls like talking in the background. She's like, oh, check it out. It's a video of a surfing cat. And she's like, that's so cute. And Skiyakide, she's like, look, I found a video of a surfing cat. She's like, the caption says Meowabunga. And it's gotten so bad that we're like, Jade has like told people if they have to say it in the booth, she's like, and this is what Kristen writes whenever there's no translation.
Oh my god, I've never thought to do that in
it's
my
like
life
my calling card.
as a writer. It's the scene of the crime. But yeah, obviously my favorite is just showing like, I always interpreted like that, yeah, the Meowabunga, and I think it's actually you that voice acted.
It is. Jade's like, you wrote it, you have to say it.
Yeah.
And I was like, yes, punish me more.
Everybody's laughing, and Machi's like, that's funny.
She's like, yeah.
Like her head on the desk, like, how do I subtly leave? I'm a Doulahan. How do I subtly leave?
Like, it was so funny. Like, poor Machi. I love Machi so much.
But yeah, I had no idea that it would be as big a deal, and I love that character so much. But like now, I always like whenever I think about your work, I think about that. I think about interviews with Monster Girls, and then just also Bofuri, or that's how I say it. I don't remember.
I'm sure there's a correct way to say it, and that I've not been saying it correctly.
Yeah, and they're like, oh, it's actually like Rosebud. Like, what? How?
Why?
But yeah, we've talked a lot about that, where obviously people have had like trouble with translations and stuff like that. But like, well, if nothing's there, like, don't say anything. I'm like, there's something there. It wasn't translated.
Yeah, there's just no translation for it. And like, I've listened to enough Japanese over the years that a lot of times I'm like, oh, it'll be like, no trans. I'm like, no, she said thank you very much. Like,
right.
You know, and so like a lot of times you can be like, all right, well, I know what to put here. But sometimes there's just nothing.
There's nothing.
Especially if it's just background chatter.
Or nothing, or like it's specific, but like the lead guy is reacting to it. It's real, like, yeah, I didn't notice this until I wrote Sakura Wars, where I'm like, I actually started doing this, like, I'm gonna argue with the trans here, because I know that they said this, because I just heard this character's name.
Mm-hmm.
And that's, like, I think, I don't, it wasn't until really, I think I did the Laughing Under the Clouds movies for, like, 11 Arts, where the third one didn't have a translation, so the production team actually had to hire a translator, and the translator was like, here is what I think is happening, here is what this could mean here, here's what this, she's like, this is my point of view. Like any translation. And I'm like, girl, thank you for saying that.
Because it's all just an adaptation. I've often said, I'm like, if you give a line to 3 different translators, you're going to get 3 different lines back. Unless it's like something really short and simple, like arigato. Like, we all know,
well, and especially if they're not, if they don't know the franchise, because there's also, like, if you know the franchise, that's going to, like, because I know this is what he actually means.
Yeah, and sometimes on some shows we'll get translations that'll have like the what they have, and then I'll have, like, notes. It's like, they're actually saying this, but it's too long for the subtitle, like, character count.
That happens a lot in video game work, yeah.
And so, like, this is what they're saying, or they're like, well, they said this, but it doesn't really make sense in English, so I wrote it this way.
Yeah.
And it's just good to have those notes, because sometimes it gives you, like, information that you need.
I wish that happened more.
I do too. That's with Slime, I have to, like, read the light novels because so much gets left out of, like, the translation that I get that I have to read the light novel to give, like, one, to fill in all the missing parts in between, and then, like, two, because I'm like, all right, this may sound weird, but there's a whole story here, and I'm like, blah, 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 blah.
Specifically for the Laughing Under the Clouds movies, the manga just this year started coming out in English.
Oh, so it's a bit behind.
You know what I had to do? Like, Tatum, like, wrote the series, but I wrote the 3 movies, which is a continuation that happens in the manga. So I had to find various fan translations and then be like, okay, so they say this, they say this, they say this, and then make, like, a sum total, basically, off of that and go... Okay, with the translation that I have and this, it could mean this, it could mean that. But if I have them say this, it could be a hint at both. And then being like, sorry about the alts. Like, click, click, click.
I'm sure people would much rather have alts than nothing at all.
Or like me, there was something where they're like, oh, I was given this, it's not funny, and it's not related to anything recently, but it's, so here's your translation, and here is an interpretation that you should consider. Like, what does that fucking
What
mean?
does that mean?
Like, to make it less boring, I'm like, but is it the translation?
Yeah.
Look over there. Answer me, or I'm going to throw this away. Well, we had someone else look at it, and they thought of, like, maybe ways to, like, punch it up. It's not, like, I punch up people's shit all the time. Like, this is not what that is. But, oh my goodness. It's fun.
It's a hard job. Of all the jobs I've done in production, writing an adaptation is the hardest.
It's the hardest, and it's the easiest to get shit on.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, oh, or why didn't you just copy and paste it in? I'm like, because even if I did that and it did work, now these characters that have, like, this love in their eyes aren't talking to each other.
Yeah. Or they don't respond to each other, which
Right.
is something that happens a lot. Like, someone will ask a question and the other person will just not respond to it.
Hello, like, Kristen, how are you? I wish my father was still alive. I think the translation here, like, the adaptation could be, just thinking about my dad. Like,
Yeah.
Look, she answered the fucking question.
Yeah, you just tweak it to answer it and stuff like that. It's the thing that, like, when you do it well, no one notices, and the moment you mess up, everyone notices.
Yes, and then also, like, there's only so much you have as the writer.
Yeah,
And it's not like shitting on a director or anything like that. Or sometimes it's, like, for me as an actor, it can even be something as simple. I think in Fairy Tale there was a point where, like, the evil version of Virgo had to do this. In the script they had her, like, tickling Lucy, but it was like a tickle, 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 and, like, really, really quick. And I'm like, all right, after a while, it's gonna be me going tick, 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 tick.
yeah,
And I'm like, well, we don't like that. I'm like, can I say goochie goochie goo?
yeah, because that's the thing.
Like, so sometimes it's I really love this line I wrote, and then why did you, like, I'm just curious, like, why did maybe you tweak that? And they're like, because so and so couldn't say this.
Yeah, sometimes it's just that. Sometimes it's just that, you know.
Or I thought this would be funny. Like, I'm gonna get murdered online because you thought that would be funny.
I like to make fun of myself because I wrote Skigakire and was assistant directing on it for Sunny, and then Sunny had to direct on One Piece, so he was like, we'll just give the show to Kristen. She knows everything there is to know about it. And so suddenly I went from, like, just being the assistant director and writer to being, like, the full-time director and the writer. And so I was, like, writing and then, like, sleeping and then directing.
Dreaming
it. And then, one day, Afia came in to record for her character, and it was super short. And I was like, who wrote this? What a moron. Anyway, I'm just going to fix it.
I did that with Laughing at the Clouds, where Donald was the main director. But at one point, I was directing. Here at Okratron, most directors, or I say most, yeah, most of the directors here are also the engineer. And I did that. And I'd never done that before for anime. I directed, engineered, wrote, and was...
That's too much.
Yeah. And there was just a point where, like, Jamie's like, I feel like you've been talking to me for these past 10 minutes. And I'm like... And then I turned the director mic on. I'm like, oh, no, I was talking to myself. She's like, you really going to bullshit me right now? Like, sorry. This line's short. She's like, look at that. The line's short. I'm like, leave me alone. She's like, I'm just fucking with you. Sorry. Do you want me to slow it down? I'm like, no, let's write more words. Since you need them, apparently.
Since you can't match my timing.
How can you not talk as fast as I can? Yeah. All right, so we got some questions.
Okay.
Boo. And we have covered a little bit of them, but it's something that Daniel asked, and I like generally where he's going with it. This is a long-time listener, first-time caller, which I'm like, the radio major in me, I'm like, oh, it's so cute. Daniel asks, have you ever been called by a director to audition for something you didn't think you were suited for at all, and then through the course of auditioning, recording, discovered that you were definitely the right choice?
Oh.
And that's such a, like, I don't remember, like, the last time I went somewhere for an audition. So I'm like, just what's happening now, horrible circumstances, but I'm like, oh, we can just email them the audition. This is amazing. I'm so tired of driving somewhere for the 15 minutes.
I like doing in-person auditions because then you can get feedback, because they're like, oh, I just want to, can you take this direction,
that's true. Yeah.
And whereas like right now it kind of feels like you're just like throwing everything in the dark and you're like, I hope you stick.
That's a good point.
Because there's no chance to tweak it and show that you can like take direction or make adjustments. But I guess I could think of like, it wasn't really where someone called me and were like, we want you to audition for this thing, and me being like, no, I'm not right. But in New Game, I did not audition for Reen.
Mm-hmm.
I auditioned for like 3 other characters, and then you probably know this, but sometimes if you have enough time, they're like, hey, why don't you pick a 4th one?
Since you finished so quick.
Yeah.
Blah, 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 blah.
Why don't you pick a 4th one? And Cliff was directing it. We were not dating at the time. We were just friends. But he was like, hey, why don't you read for Reen? And I like hadn't even looked at her sides.
Right.
I was like, huh, okay.
The whole job is you doing a cold read, so go.
Yeah. And so I was like, okay. And so like read through it real quick, like quietly. And I was like, all right, I'm ready. And I did it and I booked it. And but Reen was like real motherly and gentle, and I was always playing like the spunky best friend.
Right.
And so I remember like the first 2 sessions, like just leaving, like getting in my car and being like, well, this is the day I get recast. This is the day Cliff realizes he made a huge mistake and he wants to recast me because I suck so bad.
No, Cliff is pretty stubborn. So.
Yeah. And then by episode 4, like I'd really fallen into it, and now I play those kind of roles like all the time.
It just takes time.
Yeah.
To get into that groove.
Yeah. And then the other one was Cinco, actually, from the Helpful Fox Cinco-san.
Mm-hmm.
I auditioned. That show only has like 5 characters in it, so you were kind of like, well, if you're a girl, you'll audition for all of these. But I auditioned for Koenji, which is like the loud next door neighbor who draws manga. And I was like, oh, well, I'm going to nail this, right? And I felt great about my Koenji audition. I was like, I just know that's the one I'm going to book. And then, like, I read for Cinco, which is, like, super high-pitched and, like, little fox girl and, like, nothing that I ever play. And I booked Cinco, and it wasn't that, like, I didn't, I, of course, read for her, but it was kind of like, just because there's only 3 characters here, you have to read for all of them. But I never, ever expected that I would actually book it. And so that was, like, a really cool surprise. And she's one of my favorite characters, so.
See? Honestly, like, I guess we are, like, gearing it toward funny. Like, for in-person stuff, with funny, it's like just give me the sides. But I think that's probably just the jadedness. But I'm never like, I'm not going in. Always. But there wasn't, I can't think of a time when it's like, why am I getting called? It was always grateful. But there was a time that I was surprised I got called in because there was only one female that I knew of because it was a show that I was into. But I knew that by the time for the audition that there was only one character that I would be auditioning for, and it was the female lead. But I was like, oh, this is so cool, like that they're giving me a shot because this is something that I don't play.
Mm-hmm.
Like, but it was I don't play for funny. Like, I do this with Sentai, and I do this with video games, but I just don't, like, it's not something that, you know, each director's got their own thing, but it's a director that I hadn't really worked with, and I won't say the name of the show or the director, because it's kind of a weird story where I was really pumped. I looked at the sides. It was only that one character. It was only the lead, the female lead. And I walked in, and the director started this with, "I feel really bad that you're here."
Oh.
And I kind of went, what? And he's like, "I only have this character that's this age and this voice type. I don't know why Tara called you in." I actually almost cried. I literally almost cried.
Yeah, because like, what are you supposed to?
What am I supposed to say to that? Like,
do you just be like, "Well, would you?
You have my
audition?
Like we were acquaintances. Like, you have my number. You could have said, "Hey, I don't know why you're on the schedule. Do you like blah 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 something?" But I got really choked up by it and really disheartened immediately. I'm like, that is such a thing to hear right before you go into the booth.
Yeah.
It was a mind fuck. Anyway, do you want to try? And I went, I do these roles. Like, I had to like immediately be like, and I know I can do this. And I auditioned. I did my first take, and they got really serious. They're like, "Oh, okay. Can you do a second take? On this one, on this line, do this, da 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 da." And I did another one, and he very quietly let me go, like, afterward. And then the show got cast. I didn't get it. But the next time I saw him, he's like, hey, can I talk to you for a second? And pulled me aside, and said, "I had no idea that you could do that. It was between you and Monica." And Monica got it. And I went, "Well, yeah, and end of the day, it's between me and Monica. Like, that's not a bad, like, group to be in."
Yeah.
But, you know, just kind of went, "Well, you know, that's really good." It's like, it was like, literally, if Monica, like, had suddenly lost her voice, it was going to be you. And I'm like, well, damn it all to heck. Because it's like, I never, well, now look at it as like, oh, by the way, it was between, like, for like Black Butler season 2, Ian was like, it was between you and Lucy for Alois. I'm like, I am never going to be like, I can't believe you cast Lucy. Can't believe you cast Lucy over me. But, and it's the same thing with Monica. And that's the way to look at it, is like, I was up for it at all. That's pretty fucking great.
Yeah.
But then Monica, she's like, oh my God, it was the most awkward first session because it was him apologizing how he treated you, but to me. Because he knows that we're friends. And I'm like, what did he say? Because he didn't say shit to me. And it's like, it was, he didn't know that you could do that. And I did slap his hand because that was really fucking stupid. And he told me what he did and blah, blah, blah. But he said that I didn't know that Terri could do that. She's like, Terri doesn't do that here. And that's on you.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, you still took the work, bitch. Like,
I love working for news studios because you're like, you don't know what my type is, you know? So you're like, now I get to wow you.
Right. And it's, or like, I took a chance on you because of this. Or like, hey, like, you know, so-and-so is recommended. We're curious. Like, would you audition for this? And it's like, all right, I want to show them my range as much as possible. Oh, there are 30 characters. Like, pick 3. You're like, fuck! Ah! But yeah, like that's the one that sticks with me. That's the weirdest, where it's like and he ended up casting me in something else, not remotely in that voice, but it was still like man, you're a lot of fun to work with. And I'm like, but I forgive, but I don't forget. Like, that was like one of the weirder auditions. And my first official audition at Funny, I had wisdom teeth pulled the day before. Ooh. I shouldn't have gone. I don't remember it. I don't remember it, but Zach Bolton does. He's like, that explains so much, bitch. He's like, you were interesting. You were memorable. And I'm like, thanks, Zach. Oh my goodness. Okay. It's from Talal. If I fucked up your name, I apologize. But you've asked questions before, but it's the weirdest, best, worst, and most disgusting habit you've picked up during lockdown.
I'm sure it's probably just wearing my pajamas all day.
soft pants. Soft pants.
I'm really bad. Like I'll just like walk. I'll like roll out of bed and I'm like, time to go write anime, and I'll be in my pajamas until like 1 o'clock, and then I'm like, guess I'll get dressed.
Don't get dressed. Bra's optional.
I'm definitely like, I'll like put on clothes, but I'm like, I'm not going anywhere, so I don't need this bra today. No. Best habit is that I've probably started walking like almost every day.
Good. Yes, I love walking. I'm still a little weird, like when a lot of us are all walking at the same time. I'm like, I know that we're all working from home because we're all on the same schedule, but I just wish we weren't. But
yeah, we still like avoid people. Like I always feel bad too because we'll like see someone, we'll like cross the street. I want to shout. I'm like, we're just afraid of COVID, not you.
Well, they definitely hear me go like, God damn it! Like, sorry. I'm like, sorry your kid heard that.
I'm not afraid of you. I'm afraid of your germs and my germs on you. This is for both of us. All right, anyway, I'm crossing the street now. Bye.
I fitted myself out. Best, worst, most disgusting habits. I'm like, I don't know. Like, the thing is, I tend to work from home most of the time. Like, when I had posted a few things, like, early in the pandemic where they're like, why is it taking people so long? Like, everybody's still working from home. I'm like, for some people, remote sessions are impossible because they don't have a studio. And they're like, oh, because you don't have a studio. I'm like, bitch, I've had a studio for years. You can go fuck the fuck off to Fucktown. Fucky.
Yeah.
Don't get an attitude with me. But, so, like, we're, like, unless it's, like, funny or, like Gearbox, or something, I was recording mostly from home anyway. But yeah, it's definitely weirder now, like, just on a different thing. But for writing, yeah, working at home is, it's everything. But best word, I'd say that a lot of personal growth that I had made definitely got kicked to the curb because you fall into old habits easily when you're not around other people.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's just basically starting from scratch. And getting out of a funk because you're always indoors. So
yeah, I know I and many others, gained weight. Like I was like right at my goal weight, like right as the pandemic hit, and I've definitely gained like 10 pounds, which doesn't sound like a lot, but I'm very small. So it's one of those things I'm like, now that I'm going to conventions again, I'm like trying on clothes that like fit great before, and like now I'm fat, which is why I started walking every day. Because I was like, I didn't realize how much I walked around Funimation when we were in studio to avoid my work. Because anytime I was like starting to feel restless, I would go like walk around the building outside like 3 or 4 times.
Just a little walk does so fucking much for your mental health.
Yeah, and so now it's like, well, now I'll get Cliff to walk with me. Like we'll go walk together, and usually in the evening, at least during the summer. And now it's getting dark sooner, so we'll have to figure it out.
I mean, I don't know how it is everywhere else, but we've got constant like a don't go outside during the day like warnings where you're like, cool. Well, I'm this pale on purpose, so you're not really like telling me something I don't already do. Like it's the vampire walks.
We were doing them at like 7:45 at night. And it was like really nice. And then now it's like getting darker sooner, so it's like the middle of dinner, and so now I'm like, well, now we have to walk first and then dinner second. Like
walk first.
We have to prioritize.
Yeah, like we plan around all that. Or like there's a snow cone shop near us that's always really, really busy, and Steven's like, I don't want to hit snow cone traffic.
I love the idea of like snow cone traffic. Like, oh no, snow cone traffic.
Like especially with Zoe, our previous dog, like she's very much like people, where Willow, our new dog, is like people. I'm like, okay, so we can't really walk. She's very animal aggressive, to where Zoe was animal aggressive, but very much like, oh my god, this person I think really wants to pet me. And Willow's like, oh my god, they're trying to touch me. No! Away, foul beast. Like, it's a little kid. Like, I don't care. I'm kidding.
We can't take the dogs. Cubby pulls like the whole time, like to the point where she's like, and you're like, stop it. And Mika, my big black lab, is just like, she'll walk for like the first like 15 minutes of it, and then like by the like last of it, she's like, Mother, carry me.
I saw that actually coming back from the store yesterday. I saw this dude just walk in confidently, but his dog's trailing behind him. Like it looked like it was just a step away from just like stopping and just being like, drag me. I don't.
One of my favorite things is like tough looking guys walking tiny dogs.
Tough looking, or I was at the mall yesterday. I love tough looking dudes that are like, yeah, like I'm so like I'm hard, man. You don't even like know what I've been through. Like, all right, but like that happened at the mall. Seeing this really like tough, like nothing but like eagles on the arm, crosses, you know, like everything. And I'm like, all right, man, no mask, and that's so tough for you. Like, all right,
yeah.
But he like was all like badass, but walking into a jewelry store and immediately is like, yeah, can
Hi there, I'm looking for a gift for the missus.
I'm here to pick up a charm bracelet. I love juxtapositions like that.
Yes, I do too.
Or yeah, like even like for me, I think I give off very like, oh, like you're Sabbath, I think brought that up once. He's like, you're like punk, man. And I went, sure. But I'm like, compared to you, and he went, what do you mean? Like, well, I mean, you're like a preppy dude. Like, you definitely grew up preppy. He's like,
I remember when he had that holster for his phone for a while.
Like,
looked like a gun holster, but it had his phone in it.
Yeah, so we're like, dude, we get it. You're different. You're not like other boys.
He asked me once, we were at a convention, and I have a continuous glucometer in my arm.
Right.
And he was like, whoa, what is that? It's so cool. What is that? And I like jokingly told him, I was like, oh, it's my anti-theft device. If you try to take me out of Funimation, ink sprays everywhere. And he's like, what? And I was like, I'm just kidding. It's for my blood sugar. And he's like, that's so cool. I want one. I was like, ah, man.
No.
They're so expensive.
Now he's probably got one.
He probably does. He's like, now I can check my blood sugar whenever I want. I'm like, you're not even diabetic.
You don't even need it. Yeah, but now I know.
But now I know. He's like, soon everyone's going to have one. We'll be able to pay for stuff with this.
Oh my God. He would be like the first, like, yeah, I've already got it on pre-order. Doing? Just pull out your wallet. No, wallets are pointless now.
Wallets are so 5 years ago.
Oh my gosh, no. Oh my, okay, wait. I threw this away. I don't know if we've talked about this. Do you like horror movies?
I don't. This is where everybody notices the biggest difference between us. Because I read that question.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, I don't really like scary movies.
Okay, but like in October, there's definitely like stuff you watch. Like, so what do you watch?
I watch Hocus Pocus.
Honestly, there are parts of Hocus Pocus where I'm like, that's pretty fucking dark. Like,
yeah, there are some times, but
you know, the whole child murder.
So when it comes to scary movies, like supernatural movies don't scare me as much because I'm like, oh, well, that's just a ghost that comes out of your head. That's not real. Yeah. But like,
if it's like, I've been watching you.
I've been watching you, and now I'm going to like take this chainsaw and chop off your leg. I'm like, oh no, that could really happen. I don't like that at all. I don't know. I don't really like a lot of what I call, and I'm sure other people call it too, torture porn. Yes.
Like, I hate that. Like Saw and all
Hostel.
that. Oh my God. I almost left Hostel, but I was with friends and they're like, oh, this is great. I'm like, it doesn't, like, there's nothing. And I know Eli from the Tromaville scene. I've met Lloyd Kaufman, like, who's the Toxic Avenger thing. I'm like, I get it. Gross is effective, but like I can't.
I don't like those movies, or even like TV shows like that. Like I wasn't a big fan of like Breaking Bad or Sons of Anarchy for a lot of the same reasons of just like, I'm like, life is already really depressing. I was like, I don't want to be more depressed when I watch television. Like that's my escape. Exactly.
When you're trying to escape, I said this once at a party where I think a bit of a Debbie Downer because everyone at the party was very like just very like, and no, I'm funnier. I'm like, I'm an actor and I'm saying this is a lot. Like, you know what I mean? I'm like, I've been in drama since I was 14 years old. And I'm like, I get it. We all think we're funny, but one of us is gonna have to shut up. Just one of us. But there was a guy that rubbed me and another person there the wrong way, and he's like, so what, so you do like anime and stuff? I'm like, uh-huh. He's like, so do you like anime? I'm like, yeah. I think it's kind of important to at least kind of like it.
Yeah, you gotta like it a little bit.
But He's like, so like what TV shows do you watch? I'm like, where's my husband with my drink? Because when Steven's around me, like, these guys tend to just disappear.
I'm gonna start taking Steven with me.
He's amazing. It's but then also sometimes like they'll get like really in like my face, and someone went, dude, are you gonna do anything? And he went, she's got this. And it's true. But like, yeah, I watch everything. And he's, do you like Breaking Bad? And I went, I do not. And the friend sitting next to me is like, oh my God, like, I get it. Like, tell me that you're like a boring straight white guy without telling me you're a boring straight white guy. You like Breaking Bad. And it was like everybody likes Breaking Bad.
No.
Like, no, they don't.
No.
And I've got friends that are in that fucking show. But it's like, still like, I don't know. I watched the first season. I'm like, I get why this is popular, but it's just not for me.
My ex-husband watched all of those kinds of shows, and even like Walking Dead. I really liked Walking Dead for like 5-ish seasons.
I quit after about in the middle of season 6. I quit.
And it was one of those things I'm like, okay, zombies. I can handle that. Because to me, there's no way zombies could ever actually exist because all of their muscle tissue would disintegrate and they wouldn't be able to walk around.
Unless there's a supernatural element to the zombies, yeah. But when you base it in reality, you're like...
When you base it in reality, you're like, wouldn't your body just decay eventually and you wouldn't be able to actually move? Like, so...
Yeah.
Anyway, if you think about it logically. So I'm like, cool, zombies, not real. But then, of course, The Walking Dead isn't actually about the zombies. It's about all the awful people you'll meet while trying to survive from zombies.
Like, one of my favorite movies is the original Romero trilogy. The lesser being Day of the Dead. But Dawn of the Dead being favorite, and Night of the Living Dead because it started the genre. Like, I met Romero. I was really awkward. Talked about sandwiches way too much. Like, he's like, okay, where are these chicken sandwiches? I'm like, they're right over there. I could make you one. He's like, you don't have to. Like, I was really awkward. I'm like, I'm from Pennsylvania too. And he's like, oh yeah. I'm like, Philadelphia. He's like, oh, that's great. You know, like, I feel like I should tell you, really awkwardly. I wasn't that excited at all. I was like, I just like, I got into film because of you. And he went, wow, I feel like I should apologize to you. And I'm like, so awkward. So fucking awkward. Oh my God. But, like, I love that because most zombie films that are worth a fuck, like, if it's just like zombie, body count, blah, 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 I'm like, it's about the people left behind and who they are now that there are no rules.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
Yeah.
Walking Dead, I end up dropping. I'm like, every time something good happens, like, it's immediately ruined. I was like, if I wanted to be depressed all the time, I wouldn't watch TV at all. Like, so.
Or, and I love horror movies, and I think that's like just one of the ways that my dad and I bonded was horror films. But someone was like, "Well, Jaws is a horror film." I'm like, "No, it isn't." I mean, sure, there are sharks that eat people, but really, if you just look at it, it's small town politics because that mayor should have closed down the damn beach.
Even that doesn't scare me as much as like, all right, well, here's a crazy family that's like, we get off on killing people, and I'm like,
wearing their faces.
Yeah. I'm like, well, that's the thing. Like, I guess my motto is, or my fear is, if someone is crazy enough to make a movie about it, someone is crazy enough to actually do it. And it scares me.
In reality, like, I don't really like true crime. Or, like, I'm really tired of seeing movies about, like, Ted Bundy. Or, like, there's even one that I'm like, oh, that's interesting. And it's a movie that came out or is about to come out recently. About, like, this profiler that became friends with Ted Bundy or whatever. I'm like, that's interesting and all, but, like, all I'm thinking about is this wasn't that long ago, and the families of this guy's victims have to see this all the time.
Yeah.
That's all that I'm focusing on. Or like I remember my brother and I actually snuck in to see, or no, we tried to buy movie tickets for House of a Thousand Corpses, and they're like, we're not selling you these tickets. My mom actually drove to the mall to be like, here, let them in, and then fully left again. Like, thank you.
Thanks, Mom.
And it was like, my brother and I like horror movies, but it was like, this, I don't know what this is, but I don't like it.
Yeah, like, I don't know. There are some horror movies that I can watch, but so I think the second part of that question is like, what will make you walk away from a horror movie? Maybe.
Oh, wait, from Marquis. Oh, done. And what element would you consider a deal breaker to walk away from?
Deal breaker. I don't know if it's a particular element, but if the animal in the movie dies, I'm out.
Animals? Can't do animals. It's if a child dies, it's got to be off screen. For me.
Yeah, I don't like it when it's shown.
I don't like that. There's stuff like on The Walking Dead. I'm like, how did they get away with this?
Yeah.
I'm like,
I feel like Game of Thrones was like that a lot too. Like, I really liked Game of Thrones until like I was like, I feel like they're constantly pushing it too far.
It's just, what else can we do that's great? Yeah.
Like, what? Kids, how shock value can we make it?
Kids. There's I forget what movie it was. I fell asleep to. I couldn't get through Mimic. Mira Sorvino, like roach people. But yeah, like if it's gross for the sake of being gross, if there's what was it again? Speaking about Rob Zombie, because he did House of a Thousand Corpses and a few other things, but he did a reboot of Halloween, and he added a lot, but he also added like a casual like character that meant nothing to the scene getting raped.
Oh yeah.
I'm like, I sexual assaults, there are storylines that I think are important that push forward discussions, but you don't just you lose me the second you're like, and this should happen too. Like,
yeah. If it's not necessary, like,
which it rarely is to see it like acted out.
Yeah.
Rarely, if ever.
Also, like, scary movies where, like, the ghosts don't have any rules.
When there are no rules, it's like someone being, like, too powerful. Like,
yeah.
In that, okay, then what else?
The Grudge was, I felt like that. Like, I watched that movie.
The original or the remake?
I don't know. It had
Sarah Michelle.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, yeah, the American one, right?
Okay, yeah. I mean, it was just like, this ghost can go wherever it wants. I'm like, well, that's not very ghost-like of it. It's supposed to be haunting one house, like
unless it's attached to a person. Like, oh, well, there's no like one person. Like, I don't get the rules.
Yeah, what are the rules behind this ghost? Like, ghosts have rules, okay?
But I mean, then there are things that make absolutely no sense. But as long as they're like, this makes no sense, that's great. Or like, this is fucking crazy. Like, I love like movies that make absolutely no sense or that are just cheesy for the sake of being cheesy. But I don't seek those out. They just, it has to happen. Or like,
you know what movie like really messed me up, but like I couldn't stop watching it, was Rose Red.
Couldn't get through it. Couldn't get through it at all.
It like freaked me out. Like, my mom was a huge like Stephen King fan. Yeah. And like I remember watching that movie and being like, this is messed up. But I've like never watched it again, but I also like could not stop watching it.
I was bored. I'm like, but that speaks to just the differences. Yeah, like I love practical effects, 80s, 90s, early 2000s. But there have been some great ones that have come out just recently where I'm like, shit. I really want to see James Wan's new one, Malignant. Really want to see that. I
had a conversation at one of the last cons I went to before 2020 happened. And it had Justin Cook and it's like Justin Cook and Lucy and Cliff and Justin Briner were there, and I was telling him, I was like, I remember this movie, like, when I was, like, 5, and it really scared me. I was like, it was about an evil lamp. And just like a lamp that you rub and a genie comes on. I'm like, no, like a lamp that you like click, turn on, and there's a light bulb. He's like, there's no movie about an evil lamp. I was like, no, I swear it existed and it haunted the house and there was an evil lamp. And that's all I remember about it is that there was this evil lamp in the house. And he looked it up and it was like, I think it was like an Amityville horror movie that came out in like 1989 or something. So it was right about the time I was like 4 or 5.
There was one with the mirror that I remember, but I don't remember a lamp.
There is a lamp one. It has been looked up. It does exist. And it was really scary.
Look here, Terri.
You look here. Oh, Google it, Terri. Google the lamp.
All right, so for Halloween, you're doing Hocus Pocus.
Yes.
Other Disney ones, I guess.
Yeah, it's really just Hocus Pocus. Although I do want to see the new Muppet movie about, there's going to be a Muppet movie. Or maybe it's not new, but, it's a Disney Haunted Mansion?
That's not new.
No. Well,
or maybe they did it again.
I've never seen it, so it's new to me.
I think it came out early 2000s. I want to say 2004.
Well, I want to watch that because I love the Muppets.
See? I don't think Muppets are in it. Or maybe it's a new one. I think it's a new one.
It's going to be on Disney Plus.
It's a new one, I think, because the Haunted Mansion that I'm thinking of has Eddie Murphy in it.
Right. This is definitely like the Muppets version of it.
Oh, okay. See, I'm all for anything Henson right now because they're about to do the Lore Olympus Netflix original series.
Oh.
Amazing. It's like my new obsession. Graphic novel that's on Webtoon right now. The first volume of it will be available now in November, but it's just about Greek mythology, but it focuses on the story of Persephone and Hades.
Yeah, I've seen bits and pieces of it.
I'm wearing a hoodie from it right now. Actually, that's
nice.
totally like just yes, Underworld Con 96. It's that hoodie that Hades wears. It's very cute, but also like it covers like sexual assault and like mental health, all this stuff. And there are episodes that you can scroll through that have music accompaniment, like put your headphones on.
That's it's really, so cool.
Webtoon's done had a lot of really fun stuff. I'm like, man, I wish I could draw. But I barely focus on what I'm writing because, like, the second I'm like, yes, I'm making headway on book 2 of this, it's like, hey, we want to pay you to do this movie, but you have to start, like, tomorrow. I'll be like, the book can wait.
Because now I'm going to pay my bills.
I'm immediately going to get payment from this instead of the $12 I get about every quarter.
You get $12 whole dollars? I get, like, 65 cents. I'm always like, Amazon's like, here's another check. I'm like, hey, 65 cents
like,
coming
by the
my
way,
way.
We forgot to pay you for this. Here is $15. Like, whoa, someone bought 2 audiobooks? What?
I'm always like, yeah, $1.75. It was a good couple of months.
Being a creative is so great.
It's really great.
And then you see like hey, actually, because I have a Google alert in my name, they're like, hey, you popped up in this, and it's like, it's someone stealing my book that is only $3. It's $3. Fuck you.
Yeah.
That's a whole other thing.
It's a whole other thing.
So winding down because I forgot how short that movie was. I'm so happy that I got to see you. And I hate that it was under these circumstances. We should have just been doing lunch this whole time.
Yes.
But, you know, we have those obligations and all that.
Yeah.
The name of the show again is The Duke of Death and His Maid.
Yes.
What else have you got going on right now? I know you've got some appearances coming up.
Yeah, I'm going to be, at Dallas Fan Expo, but that's like next weekend, so I don't even know if this will be up by then. Anime Fiesta is in October. Soda City Comic Con. I'm going to be at C2E2 this year. Colossal Con Texas.
So just a couple of things.
Just a couple of things here and there. I'm in the Duke of Death. We're finishing up SSSS Dynasinin, which is one of my favorite shows that I've worked on.
I actually watched. I think that's one where you play a lot of Dallas, perhaps.
Yeah.
Okay,
Dallas is across from it. It's a sequel-ish to Gridman, but it's a different cast, like kind of same universe, different cast.
Oh, okay.
And I loved Gridman, so that's wrapping up, and And then I'm just, I'm drawing a lot of art and working on my own books to publish soon.
Yes. Keep up with her through Twitter at Chris Comics. And I'll also have a link in the bio for that. And me, you don't want to keep up with me. I'm really weird.
Yes, they do. Yes, you do.
And I don't apologize for getting political because it's important. But yes, thank you all for those that got questions answered and didn't. You're still appreciated. And our guest next month will be Dawn Bennett.
Yay! Dawn!
Oh my god, I tried to do it with her last year, but it just became like I don't know.
You have to ask her when she's on. Ask her about the boops in a bucket story.
I'm very curious what's happening. But yes, with all of that, I really appreciate you being here.
Thank you for having me.
Saturday with me and your pretty boots.
My pretty new boots. You guys can't see them, but they're real pretty.
They're really pretty.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll take a photo. I don't know. And next to like Vegeta's Arbor, we'll be like, go! I don't know.
Like, everyone needs to see these shoes.
But until next time, read good shit, watch good shit, and talk over it whenever you can. Thanks, guys. Bye.
Bye.